There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 29th meeting of SIG Contributor Experience. I am Bob Killen, and I will be your host today. With that, as a general reminder, we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which can essentially boil down to please be excellent to each other. And these meetings are recorded and will be posted to YouTube. Now with that, we're actually going to sort of not follow our standard schedule today where we normally go through stand-up, but actually kick it over to Chris to talk about orbit.love beta that looks pretty interesting. Do you need to share your screen or anything like that?
I do. Hey, you hear me okay?
Yep, one sec. I will Okay. There you go. You should be able to share your screen.
1 second. Cool. You see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Cool, awesome. So I don't know how many people here are familiar with a project called Orbit. They essentially have been trying to codify a model of how to look at your community. You know, they kind of have, I don't want to say it's similar to the Kubernetes contributor ladder, but like similar in spirit at least, where they kind of have a notion of different levels, ambassadors, fans, users, and observers. And they've been essentially trying to build tooling to bucket people in these categories based on their participation in your community, whether it's through avenues like Slack, GitHub, and so on. And some of our projects have been piloting Orbit out and have been having some success. For example, I worked with the Spiffy team recently and kind of, you know, they showcase kind of what they have done with Spiffy, where you kind of, you know, see who's new to the community, what have they added, and so on. And they kind of have it connected through a variety of data sources. You know, we have a variety of tools in CNCF like DevStats that tend to be very developer focused, but they're not as friendly, I think, for, let's call them, you know, like normal people or people that aren't used to looking at, you know, Grafana dashboards up to, you know, wazoo. And you know, we're about to consider entering a contract with Orbit to look at the Kubernetes community, for example. And I would think contributor experience would be a great place to kind of help pilot this tool and give feedback. The Orbit folks also want to have an opportunity to kind of give feedback based on their discoveries using their tools for the Kubernetes community. So I am volunteering some of my time to go and evaluate this. From a ContribX point of view, I would love to see if there's any other folks in ContribX that would like to kind of help out with me here to kind of evaluate the tool and see if it'd be useful for the wider community. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, or concerns about the tool? I'm happy to kind of go through it a little bit more, but yep.
Like, is it a GitHub app that's plugged into it? I only did a little bit of reading of how it sort of like integrates.
Yeah, so I mean, it you know, by default it uses GitHub for authentication, but it has a notion of essentially data sources where it could pull from a GitHub org, but it could also connect to, say, a Slack, to a mailing list system. It could also help if you have a system that does like developer affiliations, for example, it could also tie into that. So I still consider them kind of beta, but you know, projects and a couple companies in our ecosystem have been using it, and they've, you know, found it useful basically to identify folks that they may want to approach to you know, have a more formal role in the organization, whether it's like becoming a maintainer or, I don't know, they're a company and they're like, oh, we would love to hire this person. But essentially it's giving another avenue for you to look at people within your community that generally doesn't come up easily in DevStats is kind of the way I look at it.
And what sort of like, can you go over like the reports tab? Like what sort of stuff can...
Yeah, so these are some basic ones. These are just members. You know, I think the reporting is interesting and probably not as detailed as you would have in DevStats, but the notion is they have a different way of looking at contributors versus like raw GitHub information. They're also looking at other inputs, mailing lists, Slacks, and so on. And then they try to bucket people into their kind of, you know, orbit model, which they're more interested in learning from the Kubernetes community of kind of how we bucket people in our, contributor ladder, right? And they're trying to see if there's lessons they could take to kind of evolve their model. So in my idea, at least, we potentially could end up in a situation where we kind of have a good idea of identifying potential, new contributors or promising folks that we may want to like loop in, to our community. Because right now, I think people just kind of just show up and, find contribx or find, someone in the community that kind of kindly takes them through the process.
Yeah, I can imagine us identifying people that are maybe further towards the center than we imagine, and we can more actively reach out to them, or people that are floating around the level 4 that we'd like to intentionally invite to make sure we're acting on the inclusivity and diversity efforts that we document. That can be fascinating. So this is Matt. I'd happily give this a go.
Yeah, I mean, we're not mandating anything. It's more of just we're trialing it out and looking to kind of both learn from each other. They've taken a different perspective on things, and I think it's just useful to kind of get another set of eyes on how to look at community. And if at the end of the day we have a cool tool out of it that we could potentially use, awesome. If it's a bit of a failed experiment, it's a failed experiment. We take our lessons. So,
I'd be happy to give it a spin. Is anyone else on the call potentially interested as well?
I would be interested. I am as well.
Yeah, if you could just toss your name under the in the notes on that section, just so we sort of have a little group of people.
And just to give you an idea, the time commitment, essentially, I think we're going to do a 2-month kind of pilot with them. I think it would just be like a 30-minute meeting every week while they kind of learn from us and do it. The output of the pilot would be they would also write like a bit of a paper of recommendations based on their perspective. And, at the end of the day, we may have a useful tool for us, for the community, but we'll see how it works. It's an experiment.
And when do you plan to have the first meeting?
I think in 2 weeks. We're trying to schedule it post KubeCon because some of us are, kind of stuck in KubeCon bonanza right now, but most likely it will happen probably after KubeCon, the first week after KubeCon. We may try to do like just a formal, hey, who we are meeting in a couple of weeks before KubeCon, but I don't feel like serious work will happen until after the conference.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. And anything that we discover on our side, we will definitely forward on to the lists.
Cool. Yeah, I'll look at trying to create. With the people that signed up, I'll go look at the notes and kind of reach out, and maybe we'll have like a GitHub issue or some other public forum where we could kind of track and all this stuff. So kind of if anyone wants to jump in and participate, they can. Okay.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Cool. All right. Thanks for the time.
Yep. Okay. Well, now with that, we can sort of go back to our regularly scheduled program and kick off with events. Actually, I don't see George or anyone else that might know about office hours or the community meeting. So I'll just kick off with a little thing about our contributor summit. Right now, we're still sort of TBD. Josh and I were sort of like brainstorming the other day about potential things we could do, but it still will probably boil down to sending a survey out to the Kubernetes Dev mailing list to see if people want to record sessions or try and meet or do something of that nature. I don't have any updates on steering election at the moment. Christoph, is there anything on that side from you?
Yes, the steering approved criteria for membership at our private meeting on Monday, but I haven't sent an email about it, which is on my list that I need to.
Okay.
So I'll be sending that over to the election officers and seeing if there's any feedback or if we're good with the criteria that steering approved.
Awesome. Actually, Josh, do you know, did the election email get switched out yet?
Election email.
So there's we have it's like election@kubernetes.io email address for the election officers that's managed in the kates.io repo. Essentially, like
I'm checking it right now. If it got updated or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm guessing no.
Okay.
I was gonna say we requested that, but I don't have any insight into it.
Okay. Then yeah, it probably has to be switched over again.
It hasn't yet. I'll ping you, Josh.
Okay.
Cool.
I don't have any rights over that, so.
Oh, it's PR. It's just there's you'll get invited to it right after it's updated.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other potential steering updates or steering election updates?
No, we've been waiting for to find out what the steering approved criteria were.
Okay. With that, are there any other events related things people want to discuss, or should we kick over to the next section? Okay, mentoring. Paris, I see Kubernetes contributors in there.
I don't really have an update. Next Wednesday is a cluster API edition, but that's it.
Cool. Are you good streamer-wise?
I have not confirmed anyone, so if there is a streamer on the line that could help out, that would be awesome.
Unfortunately, I think all our 3 main streamers are not on the call at the moment, but can follow up with them in Slack.
Oh yeah, sorry. I also want to write another note about requesting more streamers.
Yeah, we've been doing callouts for it, but finding people that have both the time and equipment to do it has been an issue. One of those sort of long-standing problems. Let's see, were there any other things for Meet Our Contributors?
Nope, that's it for me anyway.
Okay. Let's see, is Ehor on the line by chance? Does not look like it. I'll read off his updates. So the Google Summer of Code is in the second phase of evaluations and is in progress this week. Community Bridge also appears to be in the same thing with second evaluations are due this week as well. And this is the final evaluation set for the current cycle. I don't have any other information beyond that. Okay, what that is, any other discussions for mentoring at this point in time? Actually, there is one thing I do want to toss out, and this is also in yesterday's mentoring call. We might see about adjusting the times on the meeting because attendance has been a little bit of an issue, but that probably won't hit go to the list to change until probably at least 2 weeks from now. We will see about, we'll see. Oh, and we now have a separate meeting specifically for the new contributor workshop. And if you're on the list, you should have gotten an invite for that.
Yeah, it's every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. The time we picked because we discovered that all of the currently active contributors were either West Coast or in APAC.
Yeah. New Zealand.
Yep.
I would love to sunset that Monday night meeting then officially.
Yeah, we talked about it, and I think it was just going to either send a message to the list was the last action item from that, or confirm with some of the current mentoring owners, sub-project owners. But I think there's enough of us that have said yeah, let's retire it. That we can just do that.
Yeah, I think we should retire it because I think the main purpose for the Monday night was new contributor workshop. So if new contributor workshop has its own time at this point, it's redundant, and I don't want to get on a call anymore at 8 p.m. at night, West Coast time.
Yeah,
So,
it's almost midnight for me, so like.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing
No
that.
thanks, internet. Yeah.
Love y'all, but no.
Okay. Now with that, was there anything else for mentoring before we move on to community management?
Joined and we skipped
had a couple people talking at the same time. One second. Josh?
Can make a brief update on mentoring. So put my sort of a slide to the meeting. So we are the second evaluation with Google Server of Code that is in progress this week, and we are at the second and the final evaluation with Community Bridge this week as well.
Okay.
So next week we'll have our final results. We'll start having our final results with Community Bridge mentoring, and we'll have some intermediate results with Google Summer Code as well.
Cool. Thanks, Ihor. Josh, you had a comment?
Yeah, but Dawn was also trying to say something.
Yeah, I think she.
I was just pointing out that Ihor had joined, and I wasn't sure if he realized we had just missed his agenda. So I was just...
Okay. Okay, so we had a mentoring meeting yesterday, which we realized was actually an inconvenient time for all the people who actually were attending, and that the people for whom that time was convenient were no longer attending the meeting. So expect soon on the mailing list an email about changing the time of the mentoring meeting.
Y'all, I just want to let you know I've been doing this for 2 years, and we've changed this mentoring meeting time approximately 15 times.
Yep.
I think I can actually go back into my logs. So I think that the consensus is it works for no one, and that we should just pick a time and stick with it.
And go with it. I agree.
Do we need a dedicated mentoring?
Nope.
Right, but what we're going to do is we're going to pick a convenient time for the people who actually showed up.
I mean, you also have to pick a convenient time for the owners of the thing so that they're like involved in the say and like in what's going on.
I think the owners are going to be the first ones that will be pulled. Because like I haven't been able to attend either meeting for a while now because I had a standing meeting.
The issue with this meeting is that our previous meeting was on Friday night for Europe. However, it was comfortable time for some people from APAC, as far as I know. So we had a single mentoring meeting before splitting. Today we have 2 meetings, and one of them is focused on APAC, and other one is focused on EMEA and North America. And the issues we have with the EMEA North American one that is happening at inconvenient time. It would be great to hear some voices from the APAC community. Probably
we have a new meeting for the new contributor workshop already scheduled at 7. I think it's at 7 p.m. That seems to be working out for the people from APAC. We will send something to the list regarding updating the other meeting time to make something more friendly.
Another option is to eliminate the EMEA plus NA meeting at all, and probably having like a small 10-minute session at the regular contributor experience meeting once a month or once in 2 weeks. Yeah. Probably it will be more convenient to have everybody in the same room to discuss some mentoring stuff.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we will sort that one out later. I don't want to spend too much more time talking about trying to schedule a meeting. So next, community management on the need to know chairs email. There's a couple items. The note regarding working groups, that one is currently on there. Actually, both those items are currently slated to go out probably later today. So this is regarding the working group annual reports and the unconscious bias training for leads. Are there any other updates that should go out in this email that people can think of? Okay. Let's see. Doesn't look there's an APAC coordinator update. And I'm assuming that's Paris just mentioned. Don't forget shout outs. We'll include that one in there. Any other items for community management before we go on to GitHub management? Okay. GitHub management, the big thing is that we did our first round of the org cleanup, and that went well. No real immediate follow-up items at this point in time. Gwyn is actually going to be, like, I had a little bash script that automatically did all the commits and everything for removing people. Gwyn is actually going to be rewriting that in something more sustainable, Go. And that will probably start happening soon-ish. Next, we are very, very close to deprecating Incubator. In fact, it might actually happen by the end of the week. It's only been an open issue since I think 2018. As a high priority issue. but we're getting there. I got the word from external storage that it's good, and QAWS is being spun out. You might have seen the thing going to the list. Any questions about GitHub management? Okay. That takes us to DevStats. Lori, I know couldn't make it. I don't think there's any update on that one at this point in time.
There kind of is.
Okay.
So we had a meeting on Monday, and the one of the things that came out of that is we're going to be working on identifying which existing graphs and charts with parameters are the most useful to the personas that we care about, starting with SIG leads, and using those to compose custom dashboards for the contributor site. Because I realized one of the biggest problems with navigation in DevStats is that it tries to be all things to all people. And if we actually create custom dashboards that are persona-based, it will work a lot better for folks.
Cool. Have you, sorry, excuse me, talking to Lucas yet?
You shouldn't actually need to do anything for this.
Okay.
We might end up doing some things with specific charts to make it easier to embed them, because ideally what we want is people to be able to go to pages in the contributor site, see the charts without having to jump out to DevStats.
Okay, I got what you're saying now. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And I think there's a few where there's like multiple different charts on one page that might be harder to embed, in which case we might end up working with Lucas on that.
Okay. Is there anything that anything you need from the group at large, or if you're interested in this, just go to the meetings?
Yeah, go to the meetings, and to the extent that anybody you work with within the project says something about DevStats or things they would like to know about the contributors that they work with, then please forward it to us. I mean, our biggest challenge in DevStats remains getting concrete feedback on what information people actually need.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Are there any other questions for DevStats? Or any discussion items for DevStats? Okay. Slack infra. I don't have any updates here. I don't think there is any other at this point in time. So we'll move it over to contributor documentation. Contributor guide, no real updates there. Developer guide, how are things going for you, Eric?
Pretty good. I've been pretty deep in the developer guide, and I've got like one section left to rewrite, and should have a pretty big PR on Friday, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hopefully you guys will like it. It's it's still kind of a stage one sort of thing, but it's a lot cleaner looking, that's for sure. So yeah, that'll be Friday.
Oh yeah, thank you for all your efforts on that. Like it's definitely the work no one wants to do, but like is desperately needed.
Oh, I love this kind of work. It's fun for me. It's like easier than coding, but and way easier than, you know, writing marketing copy. Yeah, so that's my update.
Well, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's my pleasure.
Next thing is the contributor site. So we are still on track for launching this cycle. The next big thing is actually getting the DNS zones transferred over for Kubernetes.dev and Kades.dev. And there is an open ticket with the LF on that, and I think Christoph is going to create the zones on our side to get that taken care of. Hopefully within like the next week or two. And does anyone have any questions or discussion items for contributor documentation or the contributor site? Okay, so that takes us to open discussion. Let's see. Don't see any new contributors in line, so I can pass that. We talked about Orbit earlier. The one thing I want to put on people's radar is the issue triage KEP. This is mostly for, I think, the Contribix leads to get into a good state. But we're now at a point, this is changing over some of the labels that we use, like in Kubernetes, and adding a label like needs triage to all the incoming issues. And we're sort of now in the point in between releases where it'd be a great time to push forward with it. We'll see if we're able to make it happen, but I know people are interested in it. If you have any questions or comments about that, please feel free to, or please check out the KEP, and we will need to follow it up eventually with both updates to our documentation and likely plenty of comms to things like KDev, Twitter, and all that other fun stuff regarding the potential workflow changes. With that, I think we are through those items. Is there any items or anything that people want to discuss that's not on the agenda? Okay. We actually blitzed through that pretty quick this week. With that, can give you half an hour of your day back.
Thanks for an efficient meeting. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week.